شهر الطاعة والإيمان، شهر الرحمة والغفران، شهر الطاعة والإيمان، شهر الرحمة والغفران.
أيامك خير الأيام
يا رمضان،
يا شهر صيام وقيام.
يا رمضان،
أيامك خير الأيام
يا رمضان،
يا شهر صيام وقيام.
يا رمضان.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah. In the first session pertaining to the theological aspects in relation to the coronavirus, we tried to dissect the concept of shar, which we broadly translated as aberration or vice, and this aberration or vice can be applied to the realm of legislation. Wherever there's an aberration in the realm of legislation and one is becoming distant from Allah, we call that shar, or translate it as vice. Any aberration that results in the creative order of the cosmos, that is also called shar. And in relation to the latter, we can encounter this in this world, and we ask Allah to protect us from such things. So, after having discussed that, which is a relatively important matter when it comes to understanding the coronavirus, how to view the world when the world encounters such a phenomenon, now I want to enter another important theme, and that is the question of divine punishment. Not punishment from a secular or worldly legal angle, but rather Allah's divine punishment. What is it exactly? And the main question is, does something such as the coronavirus, with all its implications and all the events that have taken place until now, can we call such a virus as an adhab, a divine punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or should we see it in another way? Inshallah, we're going to cover this point in today's session, and inshallah tomorrow's. Now, let's first start with the definition of adhab, and the spirit meaning, the root meaning of adhab is that which is appropriate to or in accordance with one's inner status or one's inner disposition or one's constitution, one's nature. That which is on a par, in line with, appropriate to, in accordance with one's nature, one's inner status, that we call adhab. Or rather, it comes from the adhaba root word. And adhab is just one of the conjugations of the adhaba root word. Now, this can apply to simple things such as water in relation to the thirsty person. Al-ma or al-adhb, for example, is wholesome water, is translated as wholesome water in relation to someone who is truly thirsty. This water is described as wholesome, adhb, which comes from adhaba, Because it's in accordance with the thirsty person's inner status. He or she was thirsty and therefore was in need of water to be satiated accordingly. And this water was appropriate to that person, in accordance with that person, and therefore we call the water adhb, because it was in accordance with that person's inner nature or bodily constitution. This can apply sometimes to the outer constitution of the person or the inner constitution. But being in accordance with it, being in line with it, that is important to bear in mind. And so, translation-wise, they translate it as wholesome. However, this adhab, which is also a derivation of the root word adhaba, this entails something being on a par with, appropriate to, in accordance with a person's inner nature. But it's in relation to punishment. This is another application of the root meaning. And divine punishment in the hereafter, the punishment one receives in the hereafter is in proportion to one's own inner nature. And that which one receives in the hereafter is in line with one's own actions. And therefore that's why this punishment, which we call divine punishment because it pertains to the hereafter, this punishment is also called adhab. Now note there's an extra alif in the term expression adhab. That alif, according to some scholars of Arabic lexicons, they say that the alif indicates continuation. Now that will become more evident as we go through this, inshallah. Continuing from what? Or to where? But that which is important for now is adhab is also that which is appropriate to, in accordance with the person in the hereafter. And the punishment one receives in the hereafter is totally in accordance with and in proportion to one's own actions that one incorporated in one's soul. Now they're going to receive the adhab. Although this root meaning of that which is appropriate to a person's inner status, it may also apply to rewards theoretically, but it's not used in relation to divine rewards in the hereafter. And the reason it's not used, very delicately pointed out by scholars, is that in the hereafter, the rewards you get are not in proportion to that which you earned. If you did 10 good deeds, you will receive 100 plus times the reward. 10 plus times the reward that you theoretically should earn. You did 10 good deeds, you should receive, let's say, 10 points. But in the hereafter, in relation to rewards, there's no proportionality like with punishment. With punishment, it's a precise formula. But with rewards, Allah rewards much more. And that is on a par with Allah's attributes of perfection. Allah provides and rewards you much more than the good that you did. So adhab doesn't really apply to rewards, but it applies to punishment. And this is the main applications of adhaba in the Holy Quran and of adhab in the Quran is in relation to unpleasant things, afflictions, and punishments that accord with the inner status and inner status quo of that person. So that's the first point, which is very important. This was very key, and you have to forgive me if I overdid it at times, but sometimes the definition of words, Arabic is a very complex language, and the interplay of letters and words with one another can be very, very delicate. Now, when you go through the Holy Quran and the term adhab in the Holy Quran, which is mentioned more than 300 times, in 80 to 90% of the times that adhab is used in the Holy Quran, it's related to punishment. Well, that's definite, because we did mention it doesn't qualify in relation to reward. It relates to punishment, but in the hereafter. It relates to punishment in the hereafter. 80 to 90% of the times you see adhab in the Holy Quran, this is what it's referring to, a divine punishment in the hereafter. In the hereafter, it's the day of recompensation now. There's no time to act anymore. There's no free will, no choice. It's you and your actions and where your actions will take you. So it's like a one-way road now. You don't encounter a junction, a two-way junction, and then you making a choice which path to take. It's now game over. It's the day of recompensation, the day of jaza, not the day of action. Whereas according to traditions of Ahlul Bayt, in this world it's the day of action, not the day of recompensation. But in that realm, in the Akhirah, it's the day of recompensation, not the day of action. Now, in this 80 to 90% of the scenarios that we encounter the word adhab in the Holy Quran, it's on these lines that if you, for example, do X, Y, or Z action, you're going to have adhab. Now this adhab may be adhabun azim, a mighty punishment, or it may be a adhabun alim, a painful, very painful punishment, and different adjectives have been used. Or for example, if you have X traits, if you have incorporated X dispositions in this world, you're going to have adhab in the hereafter. It's on these lines mainly. For example, chapter 2, verse 7, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَلَى سَمْعِهِمْ وَعَلَى أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. So Allah has sealed over their hearts their hearing, and over their seeing is a veil. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And in unity with them is going to be a mighty punishment. Note the term in unity with them, lahum. This lam preposition in lahum is the lam of unity. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Or for example, in chapter 2, verse 10, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا لهم عذاب عليم بما كانوا يكذبون. Oh, I think I've missed out the letter, the word wa. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. So in their hearts there's a disease, a spiritual disease, and since they're not doing anything about it, Allah will add on to them. Disease-wise, they'll be enhanced. It will be aggravated, precipitated. And in unity with them, because of what they how they used to lie habitually and fabricate things, there's going to be a painful adhab. And that happens in the hereafter. Or in chapter 4, verse 14, وَمَن يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, the verse starts with one who disobeys Allah and Allah's messenger. And then the verse ends with وَلَهُ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. For them there's going to be a humiliating punishment. Now, in chapter 78, verse 26, in relation to recompensation in the hereafter, it reads, جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا. It's an appropriate recompensation in the hereafter. This appropriate is very important here. In the chapter, it speaks of different forms of recompensation and then says it's going to be appropriate. And this applies to adhab. And the intrinsic definition of adhab entailed that appropriateness, that proportionality, that harmony and according nature, according with, that is, the inner status of the person. So that's one important point to mention. Another, in the Quran in chapter 36, verse 54, it reads, وَلَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. That you won't be recompensed save that which you did. Now, you see, here we have the illa particle. Illa, like the particle of exception. That you won't be recompensed save that which you used to do. And whenever illa is preceded by a negative sentence, such as in this verse, la tujzauna, that you won't be recompensed. It's a negative sentence, you won't be. Whenever illa is preceded by a negative sentence, the subject of that sentence is one and the same as the subject of the sentence succeeding illa. So here, the subject of la tujzauna is jaza. You won't be recompensed. It's a negative sentence, okay? What's the subject? It's compensation, recompensation. Here, jaza, recompensation, is one and the same as what is the subject matter in the sentence succeeding illa? The answer is your actions. So Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh Amuli concludes from verses like this that your actions are your recompensation. So here, and we have other verses of the Holy Quran which show that you are your actions, and it's these actions of yours that have been incorporated into your soul. Heaven and hell are just a function of those actions. That's another important point to bear in mind. Now, adhab in this context, which covers 80 to 90% of the times which the term is used in the Holy Quran, true, it's in relation to the hereafter. The point is, though, in the hereafter, hell and punishment becomes manifest to the person. Otherwise, in this world, when one is actually sinning, they are creating their hell. And it's a function of their souls. The actions they are incorporating into their souls, the soul is now burning in hell, for example. But since we are preoccupied and drowned in the physical aspect of this realm of existence, we are blind to that punishment. And there are wisdoms behind that. Maybe we couldn't tolerate it. And there are many stories one can open up here, but for reasons of time, I don't want to mention those. But the punishment that will become manifest to one in the hereafter, that punishment exists already. when you do the sin in this world, and especially if you don't repent for it, it's going to continue with you to the hereafter. And that alif in adhab may be signifying this transition and this continuation of the adhab. It's with you in this world. It will remain with you until the hereafter. It's just that you don't see it or experience it in this world. But after you die a physical death and become detached from the physical realm, since the hereafter starts from the immaterial realms, after you detach from the physical realm of existence, there your hereafter starts, and now you begin to see your hell or your heaven depending on your actions. But now we're focusing on adhab as hell here, because we said it doesn't apply to rewards. So now you will see your adhab, you will see your hell, you will see your divine punishment. So in the hereafter it becomes manifest to you. Here in this world it's not. So in this sense, when we say divine punishment pertains to the hereafter, it's in this line of thinking. Now, and this fact that the punishment manifests in the hereafter, we can see in many verses of the Holy Quran. For example, in chapter 4 verse 10, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى ظُلْمًا, those who consume the property of orphans wrongfully, إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا, they are only consuming fire in their bellies. So you see, as they're committing the sin, their insides are burning. Not the physical inside, but the soul is burning. But they are oblivious to it. They don't experience anything. But the point is, the adhab is there, but it's not manifest for reasons of Allah's wisdom. And then وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا, and then they will be burned in a blaze in the hereafter. But here they're burning, but they're not aware of it. But later, here the particle seen, the S or seen in سَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا, they'll be burned in a blaze. They'll see it. But later, it will become manifest to them. Okay. So, this is how adhab is used in the Quran 80 to 90% of the times. Now, I want to call this type of adhab, which is the main adhab, main divine punishment, mentioned in the Quran, as type A adhab. So please bear that in mind as we progress. Instead of me repeating everything again, I will now call this divine punishment, which pertains to the hereafter. And our claim is it does not apply in this world. We're going to call type A adhab. Now, in relation to corona, assuming corona was a man-made construction and it was made in a lab by a group of people, okay, in that sense we would say these people have killed many innocent lives, and therefore they're going to be in hell forever and they're going to burn. And that will be their divine punishment, and that is their adhab. But if corona was a natural phenomenon, can we call it a divine punishment of type A? I'm only going to raise this as a question. It's too early to answer, but the claim that I'm trying to make and put forward is that no, it's not to be seen as an adhab of type A. Okay. That was the first part. Next, in a number of verses, and those verses are very few, maybe less than 10, in opposition to adhab in the hereafter, there's mention of خزي, disgrace in this world. So there are actions or traits that if you were to execute or incorporate, the verse says you would be disgraced in this world, and in the hereafter you're going to be a recipient of divine punishment, of adhab. For example, in chapter 2, verse 80 something, I haven't written the exact reference, it reads, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفِرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you believe in part of the book of the Holy Quran and deny or don't believe in another part of it? فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ. And those who do this amongst you, their recompensation will be nothing but إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. In this worldly life they'll be disgraced. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And in relation to the hereafter, the day of resurrection, يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ. They'll be confined, or consigned rather, to the most severe of adhab. But here it doesn't say they will be a recipient of adhab of type A in this world. In this world they're going to be disgraced though. Now, this action that they did, which was accepting some of the book and not accepting other parts of the book, here they're going to be a recipient of disgrace in this world. Now, this worldly disgrace though, it comes about because of an action they did in this world. And here I want to introduce this idea of cause and effect. That the whole creative order of the cosmos is based on cause and effect. And those cause and effects may be of a material type of existence or an immaterial type of existence. Sometimes actions and intentions of an immaterial nature leads to and is involved and embedded in the overall cause and effect hierarchy and system ruling this creative order of the cosmos. As we said, the creative order of the cosmos, the realm of creation, there's a material, there's a semi-immaterial, and there's the immaterial realms of creation. And there are all cause and effects which are ruling different aspects, and everything is ruled and defined by cause and effect, including in this particular verse and verses similar to it, which speak of you being a recipient of disgrace in this world. In the hereafter, though, it's going to be a case of divine punishment. In this world, disgrace will arise for you. But this is based on cause and effect. You acted you committed actions which were not on a par with how Allah had dictated things. The effect of that will be disgrace. Now, here it would be worthy just to take one step back and explain this in a bit more detail. This relationship between actions and tribulations that arise as a result of those actions. Trials and tribulations, burdens and afflictions which arise as a result of actions. And we want to try and provide a framework for how these two are related. How can actions lead to different afflictions and burdens in this world? Even burdens like earthquakes or volcanoes. How can we justify this? Now there may be many causes to a volcano erupting or an earthquake becoming actualized or other natural disasters or tribulations of another kind in this world. We're not saying it's confined to one cause, but we have to understand that through the language of the Quran and the du'as of Ahlul Bayt, there definitely is a relationship between actions and tribulations, actions and burdens, actions and afflictions. In the supplication of Kumail, here Amirul Mu'mineen in the early part of the supplication recites, Allahumma ghfir li adh-dhunub allati, O Allah, forgive me those sins that. Then he goes through 5 different categories. He starts with, forgive me those sins that tahtikul isam, that tear away the veils of chastity of a person. As long as the veils of chastity were there, the person wouldn't sin. The chastity would veil the person, would safeguard the person from sinning. But there are some sins that one does which tears one's chastity, the veils are torn, and then one will just commit more and more sins and become more and more spiritually ill. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, the 4th successor to the Holy Prophet, has said that sins which tear the veils of chastity include drinking intoxicants, gambling, doing futile things just to make others laugh. No one is against laughing, but doing futile things to make them laugh, that is unnecessary. That makes you unchaste. Socializing with people who are associated with vice, or ridiculing other people's faults. Ridiculing, I mean, when you disclose other people's faults, that is backbiting. This has backbiting in it, plus that dimension of mocking people. So look, here we see that there are a number of actions that if you do, it leads to your veils of chastity being torn. There's a relationship here. Or for example, forgive me those sins that tunzilun niqam, which draw upon adversities. Now here, corona can apply here. Corona couldn't really apply to the first one because it was about your veils of chastity being ruined. But here, it can apply here. It can be an application. So, what then Imam Sajjad gives a commentary again and says those sins that draw upon adversities are oppressing people's rights, transgressing people's rights, or mocking people. So you see, this question of doing wrong to people, oppressing them, it may lead to adversities for you. That's one issue there. Or, forgive me those sins that tuqayyirun ni'am, that alter blessings, that modify blessings, takes blessings away from you. Corona may be an application of this part also. Here again, Imam Sajjad gives a commentary of those sins, those actions which can lead to the alteration of blessings, the eradication of blessings that that were accessible to you. Now they're going to go away. What are they? Again, oppressing people's rights, doing dhulm, oppressing people's rights. For example, oppressing the rights of the people of Palestine, the people in Kashmir, and many other countries. That is a very open example application, but even in other countries, in your own country, your neighbors, oppressing people, or being silent when others are oppressing people, this is going to lead to an alteration of blessings. If it's done on an individual level, that individual will encounter an alteration of blessings. But if the world is silent in relation to atrocities against innocent life, then the alteration of blessings will affect the world. Or, for example, abandoning habits of virtue that you had. When you abandon them, blessings are going to go. Being ungrateful for blessings, the effect will be alteration of blessings. Abandoning gratitude, the effect will be alteration of blessings. So you see, this can be an application of Corona here. But the cause was what the people did. They oppressed others. They weren't grateful for the blessings they had. And in one verse it reads, in the Holy Quran, chapter 13, verse 11, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah won't alter that which is with the people until they alter that which is within their souls. Their actions have to alter. If it alters for the good, they will receive good. But they have to act. It's in their hands. Cause and effect. Another set of sins that one asks for repentance, one asks for forgiveness, are those that tahbisu du'a, which hold back, not where your supplication, hold back supplication, where your supplications aren't accepted. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, sins which make your supplications not accepted are ill intentions. Intentions, for example, contaminated with bad incentives, or contamination of the heart, or hypocrisy with your brothers in religion, or not believing that Allah will answer your prayers, using foul language, and delaying your prayers and good deeds which make you closer to Allah, you keep on delaying them. This constant delaying of those actions, here again, in this category of actions, they will hold back supplication. Cause were these actions, the effect was holding back. Here, okay, it may not be directly related with Corona, but in the last category, Allahumma ghfir li adh-dhunub allati tunzilul bala, sins which bring down tribulations, burdens. Now this is definitely related with Corona. What are those sins which bring burdens based on cause and effect? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam answers saying, not helping the oppressed, or wasting the principle and ruling of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar, not enjoining the good, not prohibiting the bad. These two set of actions, not helping the oppressed and not abiding by this principle of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, this brings down burdens. But don't look at it as a divine punishment of type A. For now, it's based on cause and effect. Now this cause and effect there need not be that accordance or proportionality with everyone who is a recipient of the burden. And they may not be a recipient to the same degree either. So this need not be type A punishment. It's just cause and effect, and when the burden comes, you still have a two-way junction. And that burden may work for your betterment. But if you don't act properly, astutely, with rectitude, it will lead to you becoming more and more spiritually ill. But here again, this may be an application of Corona, based on cause and effect again. There's nothing extraordinary happening here. Now, the next question is this, that how can we justify or explain this relationship between actions on the one side as the cause and the effect being a worldly burden, a burden in the physical realm of existence? Inshallah, we'll continue with this tomorrow, inshallah. Or we may continue the day after, because tomorrow we may speak a few words in relation to Imam Hassan being the auspicious occasion of his birthday anniversary. We may speak a few words in relation to the Holy Imam, and then after that, the next day, inshallah, we'll continue on this theme of the theological aspects pertaining to the coronavirus. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.